Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Krish Marketing Podcast, where we talk to real estate agents, mortgage brokers, mortgage loan officers, mortgage vendors, and technology partners. CEOs and founders from all over the place. If you haven't tuned in, visit Spotify or YouTube to catch up on the latest episodes. So today, we've got a very special guest. Every guest is special, but this one has a kind of a sentimental special because I've known this young man for many moons. We have Nanda Ragala. He's an award-winning, record-setting, and community-building real estate professional based out of, I believe, Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. But I believe he supports a number of states around him, as well as Georgia, where I hail from. Nanda and I have had, I don't know, maybe a 20-year friendship, but, on and off, right? We went to college together at Georgia State University back in, I don't know, we want to tell everyone our age, but back in,
that's a secret.
Was it early 2000s, let's just say. So a very long time ago. I think we all kind of went our separate ways after college. I think I ran into you one time when I was doing some childhood cancer awareness stuff back in Atlanta. And then randomly through maybe LinkedIn or social media, I think we were always friends.
Yeah, we were always Facebook
and we keep up with everyone's lives on social media. And one day, I went from real estate marketing to mortgage, and then I started seeing all these posts on maybe Facebook and LinkedIn at the time of Nanda really starting his real estate business. And I think it was at the beginning of your business.
Yeah, that was my first, literally the third or fourth month I moved into the business.
Oh, really? And so you're with Coldwell Bankers today, right?
Yeah, since day one.
Since day one? So you're day oneer? You're not one of those realtors that hops?
About 6.5 years into it now. So it will be 7 in July. Yeah. So
I remember, so you and I grabbed lunch probably around that time, you said, 6.5 so years ago. In Atlanta, and I was just talking. I was like, because I was still geeking out. I was a little jealous that like you were in real estate, and I had left real estate and gone into mortgage. But they both go hand in hand. They truly.
You had to fill the spaces. You left, so I had to fill the spots.
It is. You can't really have one without the other. Maybe you could do a cash refi, refi. Without a real estate agent, but you can also have a real estate agent that can have a cash buyer, right? So, but most transactions require the two. And there's a lot of education that happens. And you jumped in kind of head first. You relocated through that during that time. That didn't shut down your business in Georgia, right? You just extended it. I think like a couple of months ago, you're like, hey, I'm in Atlanta. You're in Atlanta, and I guess you traveled there. You have friends and family there as well, but you go there for business as well, right? Frequently.
Yes, I do. I still have a lot of referral business because I lived there almost 25, 26 years. So I have the influx of friends and family, and somebody's always followers, and somebody's always reacting to it. And I say real estate is everywhere, so why not do it everywhere?
And real estate is everywhere. I remember when I was in college, I don't know if you remember my friend PJ. PJ and I, we used to read a lot of these success books, right? And I think the first one I borrowed from him actually was that Robert Kiyosaki. Remember the Rich Dad?
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
And I remember reading that, and and I was probably, to admit, maybe 21 years old at the time, 21. And I remember reading it, and I'm like, well, how much does this apply to me, right? Since then, I've read it a couple of times, probably in the last 10 years, probably read it once or twice. And I remember, wow, that makes so much sense. Real estate truly is the American dream, right? It is the universal dream. Own a piece of land, own a piece of property. And, so I follow you across social media. You do a lot, but what I love to see that you're just a human being with a personal brand. Tell me about what is important to you. And I know this wasn't one of the prep questions, but it's
it's okay.
Well, tell me a little bit about let's take a step back. not just through social media, but through your community and friendships, how you've built that sticky effect, right? Now, you do post it on social media, you go play golf, whatever, but what is it about you in your personal community that people are attracted to? What's the law of attraction for you?
The law of attraction is very simple. It's uh, growing up. My dad said something very simple. He said, "Service to humanity, service to God." So I took
Mhm.
it. I think I took it seriously too, very, very
Sure.
seriously, and I just keep doing things in the community, not expecting anything. There is no
Mhm.
expectation. The expectation is, am I happy? Am I making people happy? And that's all mattered, because
Gotcha.
everything else worked by itself and seemed into the process. So that's where it all started. And I
Mhm.
think when I was younger, the when I was younger, I would do it, but I was doing it in extremes where I wasn't focused on myself. So
Right.
as I was growing up, I realized, I do this, but I have to focus on myself because I have to grow. My family has to grow, and the things that I have to grow around myself too. You know, this way, the law of attraction, um, the tools that I have are basically, who am I? What can I do? What can I
Mhm.
make? How can I make people happy? Simple.
Gotcha.
And that always retracted back to me in a form of business or fun or just, simple smile. So,
Yeah. We have a loan officer at Kind that she's actually based out of Atlanta. She a new branch that we launched, and she we just had this event out in Atlanta a couple of 2 weeks ago or so,
yeah,
and
I saw
it was
that.
called the Mindset Event, right? And it was like, okay, everyone has these events and talks about all these crazy, things, right? Or like, hey, give me your business and whatever. And there's got to be an authentic side to
Yeah.
events, right? You would agree that if you, Nanda, if you had the opportunity to go to 3 different events, you're going to pick the one that provides you the most
Hmm.
utility and most tools. And so that's what we did. And it was about building authentic relationships.
True.
And that's one thing when I look at your social media, and you don't have a gajillion followers or
No.
whatever, but what you do post is authentic, right? And hey, I'm out, at the driving range with a couple of my buddies, whether they're realtors, whether they're past clients,
Mhm.
whether they're potential prospects, consumers, whatever, right? And and oftentimes, and I think you would agree here, there is no intention or staple on the interaction to do business,
Mhm.
right? It's about being authentic and building those
Yeah.
relationships. Um, you know, let me take a step back. So over the last 20 years, um, I have to be honest. I have to be transparent and lay it out there for you, Nanda. I follow you on social media, and sometimes my wife and I are like, my wife's never met you, right? And she thinks she knows you now because I show her posts. It's like,
Yeah.
man, look, his kid's playing golf, or or man, look at where did you get that suit from, or that hat, right? Like the hat. We'll talk about the hats in a minute, but it's people look at other people on social media and say,
Mhm.
oh man, how come I can't be like that? Truth
Mhm.
is, you can,
Yeah.
right? But the difference is yours isn't a facade. It's not made up, right? That's the real
Yeah.
you. And so you're talking about right before we started this call about this hat that I love the hat. I just don't do hats as well as you. I do a lot of ball caps, but tell us about your hat as being now becoming part of your personal brand, which that I didn't
Yeah.
even know about.
Yeah. So it's funny. It all started. Obviously, I was grooming my hair, and it's not in the best shape of the years. So I said I need to put something on that makes create um, a unique identity of something.
Right.
And growing up, I always liked fedoras, going to events, and every fedora I wore and went to an event, I always got accolades. People were like, "Oh wow," and it was nothing great. I didn't spend hundreds of dollars. It was just very simple. It might be like
Yeah.
20, 30, 40, $50. But the thing is, it worked out in the event and everywhere I go, and it just worked out. And I use that, and so when I do my closings now, I always wear a hat because I tell my clients in the beginning, I wear many hats because I might
Mhm.
be a realtor, but I can guide you in many other things, not just as a realtor. In whatever aspect I can help you. If you
Sure.
talk, I can switch the hat and give you the advice or maybe guide you. It might not be great, but it will maybe give you some kind of an idea of what you need to do next. You know,
I love.
big simple facts like mortgage lenders tell my clients, don't go buy things. I'm
Mhm.
like, let me put my hat on. I'm not a lender, but I'm your friend. I can tell you, do not go spend on things that you don't need to because you can't afford the house. Like, you can't. You have to follow the process, but the clients don't know all of it because it's not
Mhm.
their job. But I have so many hats. I can flip a hat on the coin and say, okay, I can be, I'm not your psychiatrist, but I'm your realtor, so I can help you with that. That's what I
That's
always say at the starting. That's my first meeting with them. So then they understand. Then I always go to the closings with
so
my,
that's your tagline, right? I wear
yeah,
many hats. You're a
yeah.
realtor that wears many hats.
I
That's
actually made a video the other day. It's coming soon, so
oh
we'll
good.
see.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
And I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad I asked because that is one fond memory I have that you've always worn hats. And
yep.
I don't know if now, looking back, I don't know if they were actually my memories or looking at them on social media. But, since over the last 7 years, right, we've both started new industry. So I started
Hmm.
mortgage, you started real estate. We both got married. We both have boys or children. Our boys are almost the same age.
Hmm.
Uh, we're competing secretly. I don't know if you
Hmm.
knew that, but secretly.
As
But
long as they don't know it, we're good.
yeah, and we got to get the boys together at some point, play golf. Obviously,
My
you and
kid is
I,
super competitive, and
yeah,
he's
you and I play golf. I guarantee you are 99.9 times better than I am. But it I guess it comes with the territory, right? Mortgage,
yeah.
real estate. For whatever reason, there's a lot of charity tournaments. Um, but there was something interesting. Is now you live in Mount Pleasant. For those of you that are listening on the West Coast or anywhere else, Mount Pleasant is really close to Charleston, South Carolina, and the fedoras and the hats really do fit in well, right? It's a southern charm, southern
I
thing.
was the missing
Yeah,
puzzle I got fit in. So
yeah, maybe the only other place you would see more hats is maybe New Orleans and Texas, where I'm at, with the cowboy hats. So, but that's pretty cool. So, real estate. So, tell us about how you got real estate. Like, what were you doing prior to real estate, and why did you pick real estate?
before real estate, I was doing too many things, and the one thing I really liked that I enjoyed I was in was I owned a restaurant by Georgia
Mhm.
Tech, and we had a phenom of 5 years, which was amazing. But as you grow up, and I was pretty young when I was doing that, then the restaurant business is not all bells and whistles when you're working 18, 20 hours a day. But what I did learn through that process was real estate, meeting people, understanding how to run the restaurant and how to keep the restaurant going and things such as that. Then I moved into the hospitality sales industry where I actually met a lot of owners who are trying to buy hotels and commercial plazas, or say gas stations and many things. So I kind of had a knack that I felt that I can find these places that were always profitable for other clients,
Right.
because I always knew a location, like real estate, location, 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 right?
Mhm.
But it's not just location. There's so many factors. So I put all those factors together. When I put that, I was helping other guys find these locations, but at that point I still didn't have my license, but I wasn't making any money, but I was just telling them just out of my knowledge that I learned, and it was
Mhm.
helping them. Then I said, I can take this to the next level. So that's when I wanted to go into commercial real estate. But then that was a long journey, I figured. So I started, let me figure out where to start. So I started in the residential market and already had, um, before, I didn't have social media like follower numbers on me, but I knew I had people who I could interact with and build a business. And even if it's, I have 100 people, I can do five. I'm pretty good to
Yeah.
start with. That's what my goal was initially. And I did more than five, which showed me that my track was right, so I followed that path. So I got my license in Atlanta, and I think we were also planning to move to South Carolina in the year or the year after. So and South Carolina and Georgia are reciprocal. So I could just take that license, bring it here, and I could still do business there and do business here. And over the period, I learned I could just do the referrals out. And I have a really good buddy, Matt, who works with me down in Atlanta. So I share with him. We deal. Even though I give a referral out, I'm also part of that referral. I never say, "Here's the deal, you handle it," because I still want to keep touch with those clients, because when it comes to business, they want to know that you're part of it. And if they trusted you with it, I wanted to keep that trust going all the way till the
Yeah.
closing.
Otherwise, you only have your word, right?
Yeah.
Well, what I find interesting, so I think another common trait you and I both share is we're kind of extroverts. We're outgoing. We like to talk to people. We like
Too
to be
much.
out there. We were party animals maybe at one point in our lives. But what I find interesting is that you throughout life you established all these really good relationships, these good conversations. And where did you have a notebook and write them all down? Were you always in the kind of mindset of sharing contact information or connecting with them somewhere so that you could go back to them? How did you do that before even maybe social media was around? What was your process to go back to that book of business?
It's funny you ask that question, because I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day. Nowadays, we're so adapted to pulling up the contacts and like, oh, Krish, let me call him,
Sure.
find him. Back in the day, we had the dial numbers. I actually knew all my numbers on my fingers.
Nice.
Meaning, if I had to call Krish, I would say 404
Yeah.
so and so, and I would call Krish. Even some of my buddies I still know their numbers. I dial them. I never go into the contact list. So back in the day when I was doing that, I had that numbers just in my mind. So I would just call them, and it was just I mean I have them in the contact list, but I
Right.
didn't have to search for them, because I
Yeah.
knew who that was and what their 10 digits were, and I would call them, and that kept me going because it kept my brain sharp. I would say,
Absolutely.
Then I didn't need to write anything. I didn't need CRMs and systems. I did have a CRM when I joined the company, which they provided. Then that's when I started balancing all the contacts and information, because then it gets to emails, and you have to keep it back and forth. And now you have drip systems and processes. Why not
Right.
use it when I have it? But before that, I was just dialing people, and then Facebook came, and everybody's following everybody, even if they're not in touch. But what I've always kept going was, like you said, being creative.
Mhm.
If I wasn't in real estate, I wanted to be a movie director, maybe.
Well, I
So,
can see that. I can see that.
so because I wanted to keep that concept, and since I don't have to be a movie director, I enjoy creating things on my camera. You probably see a lot of videos and photos I post, but it's all different. It's never going to be the same exact thing.
Right.
Some I don't like to repeat it myself, because I don't think anybody will enjoy the same repetition. I don't make part 2, part 3. I make something new. So,
Not the Godfather Part 3.
yeah.
Well, let's pivot slightly. So, hey, look, we're in January, beginning of 2024. We have all, whether you're in the mortgage industry or the real estate industry, have experienced a very challenging, let's say, 2023, right? This is unprecedented, firsts for both industries or the industry as a whole. Things from, inventory issues, just pricing and rates, and just, I saw a stat recently that 700,000 real estate agents have exited the business, and not just like, hey, I'm throwing in the towel, I quit. They just didn't go back and get their CE credits, right? And they just let it expire. Maybe they were doing one deal a year. Well, then who's picking up the 700,000 deals that might exist, right? And same thing on the real estate side. We've seen this just exodus because it's been challenging. But then, I see your closing photos. I love them. You closed on, I want to say, your first biggest commercial property this past year, recently even.
Yeah.
And so you've seen success. How, when you see like all these obstacles in front of you, and you see your fellow colleagues exiting the industry, and consumers just pushing back based on media narrative, how have you still been, because you had a record year?
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, what was different about what you did than what anyone else has been doing?
Yeah, I think the key word is preparation. So when I started seeing what was happening in end of 2022, everybody's like, "Oh, we had a great year," and when that things like that happen, you always have a mental aptitude. You say, "Is this going to continue the next year?" Right? And I saw the changes coming because in Charleston is right now. We did an economics summit meeting at our office yesterday. It was showing Charleston as the number one for population growth moving to Charleston. So that saying that Charleston also doesn't have a lot of land left because we're around water, and whatever is there is going to be expensive when they try to come in. So anyways, looking at that fact, I looked at if I'm not going to be able to sell, as there's not a lot of inventory, what can I sell? There is inventory. There's new builds. So I flipped my concentration from just waiting for buyers to figure out. I was guiding them towards new builds because there was new builds. New builders said, "Hey, we're going to build all this because there's no other inventory anywhere. Let's start building," and they did. And I went and connected with all my different builders that are in the area, and just kept in touch. And they kept sending, hey, we have national sales event. This, rates, we're gonna buy the rates down, or whatever the options were. But the clients don't know that, because they're like, "Oh no, I want to buy a second home or whatever. I have money, but maybe I want to move by myself, but I can't afford it because if you were 40 minutes away from Charleston, you were spending 300, but if you're going to Mount Pleasant, you're spending $1 million. So big difference. But at $1 million, your mortgage is going to be so high. Do you want to do that? But if there's a new builder, your mortgage might not be as high. So I was thinking about these factors in November of 2022. And as we came in, and I was only marketing to buyers about new builds. And if you see my posts or videos around 2022, beginning of 2022, 23, early 2023 was all about new builds and rates and things. That's what I saw, because everybody else, I think, when I met and talked to the other agents, we were trying to see if we can find more inventory. We were like, "Oh, let's get more listings." But if there's nobody going to move anywhere, because they have to spend more money to move anywhere, it kind of played into my playbook.
The need to move wasn't there, right?
So the need to move wasn't there. So the kind of worked into my
the reasons why changed, right? Totally changed. And then, so what I hear you had to do, and I think you continue to have to do, is pivot, right? Pivot to your model, have backup models, backup plans. And the issue a lot of sales folks, whether you're a real estate agent, mortgage loan officer, the pipelines weren't there, right? They focus so heavily on maybe the refi business or the right now business that they had nothing 3, 6, 9 months out. And new home buyers are new builds aren't just new home buyers; they're a culmination of second homeowners or trading up, or even sometimes first-time home buyers. So it's a good mix. And it also sounds like you didn't sit behind your desk all day. Right? You didn't sit behind your desk. You let the automation, marketing, whatever that's happening behind the scenes happen. But I remember when I got into real estate marketing, I was consulting. Then I was with a broker, and she said, "Well, typically, if agents," it was a boutique brokerage, right? I remember her saying, she goes, "Well, if a real estate agent is sitting behind the desk, they're not making any money." Because they're not out showing homes. And loan officers, the same thing, right? Loan officers aren't going out meeting with their realtors or both of them combined are not going to those impact meetings or the chamber of commerce meetings and knowing what's happening inside that community, then you're going to be lost, right? And so I love that you said that, because it does take time out of your day to dedicate to those relationship building as well.
Yeah.
Now you touched on marketing, and this is the Krish Marketing Podcast, right?
Yeah.
We love to talk marketing. And when you and I had a call a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, Nanda, I really want you on this podcast because, again, I love what you're doing. You mentioned to me that you had hired this this outside agency to help you with marketing. Tell us, and we're not going to spoil it for everyone. I'm not going to spoil it, and I like to talk, but give us your experience with that.
Yeah. So I went through, they reach out through our Coldwell banker, and they say, hey, we're going to do a show and tell how we do things and what will come out of it. And I joined the crowd. I joined them and I paid a fee, and they were supposed to do some videos. I mean, the videos were awesome. The photos of, they were doing like luxurious homes. And then they were posting those for me on my social media. But the funniest part about it, I knew who would be those first 5 people who would like them. Right. And it was the same 5 people liking them. But they were not bringing any more newer clients or newer, not opening up to a newer variety or wider client base. That's what we're looking for, right? As a realtor, I'm like, if you're reaching out to the people I know, it doesn't help. I'm already doing that. I need help for you to reach the clients I can't reach, or I'm not able to reach. Or also sometimes maybe they're following somebody else. They don't know that I exist here, because in the social media world, everything is somehow controlled somewhere, right? If I don't pay for it, maybe I'm not reaching somebody. If I pay for it, I see the new clientele that I haven't reached in the last couple of years. So things like that. So, and the fact was, they were creating nice videos and information, but it was very generic, meaning they were running a video through a nice property, and I can do that. But the thing is, it was not telling a story of who I am, and not telling that whoever's following, not attracting them why I do what I do, like you asked in the first question. I want people to know why I do it, and I want people to know that I can do it, and I am doing it. So all these need to be shown either in the video format or picture format, because we're going through millions of videos and photos
absolutely.
Okay. And the span of that concentration is, if you go through TikTok or whatever, you stop at a video because you like it or you want to know more about it. It's the hook. We have to create those hooks. And, that's what I'm trying to do when I do my marketing. And that's what the company wasn't doing for me. And that was my key factor. You need to create those hooks to bring those clients to me, ask me a question, or just follow me for some, maybe I will help them in some format, and that works for me. I'm not trying to get all the clients, all the customers, because everybody knows every other real estate agent, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's your business, there's my business. We're all here to do the business. So
absolutely. I think I love that you mentioned the hook, because I was going to try to find a way to segue into this piece, but you did it for me. So thank you. But storytelling is what it's about. And we have a group of loan officers that I think combined probably have 15 million views on TikTok and millions of views on YouTube. I mean, it's crazy. And they're spread out between Arizona, Charlotte, and Pensacola, Florida. And what's interesting about this group is we had 2 of the 3, they called the Lending Avengers, and I can't take any credit for what they do, because they were doing this before they joined our company. And they got on stage at the Kind Mindset event recently, and they talked about stop the scroll, right? And they have something called a hook generator. So essentially, they created this thing where anyone, no matter what industry you're in, You put in some of these things, it's AI based, and will create the hook. It's like, this is your hook, right?
Okay.
This is how you stop the scroll. And and what I love about what they've done, and AI is solving a lot of issues and taking decisions out of human hands in some cases. But in this case, what's awesome about it is, and what they've managed to do, and they have this, like, I think twice a month webinar for anyone. It doesn't matter if you're in mortgage, real estate, whatever, anyone that wants to figure it out. And what I like about that is we're at a point in our marketing journey, as a human race, if you will, that people want to be able to elaborate and share and not keep things a secret, right? Because if you don't share it, then somebody else will. And you want to be the source of good content, good information. And so when it comes to real estate, you're not, and I've seen your stuff, you're not just talking about real estate. You're not talking about these amazing accolades, which I do want to get into in a second. Because I love, not, we're not about showboating ourselves, but being able to step up on a ladder and build is super important in real estate, because you can also end up one of the statistics that's exiting the industry. So it's a clamoring fight. But Nanda, you've heard of Grant Cardone, right?
Yeah.
We had Grant Cardone on stage at our event in Orange County a couple of months ago, and he talked about, hey, like some of his crazy social media ideas that he's had, some of the things that he's gone out and said, and sometimes it's not well received, right? Like, you and I both know, it's like, hey, if you want to be known as the bullish kind of guy, which Grant isn't, but he has pioneered change on how social media is done. And what you said exactly is the exact point that we're trying to make, is you have to think and do outside the box, because nobody like, the viral content is fun at first, right? The first couple of Taylor Swift and Jason Kelsey things we saw, okay, it was funny, right? There was one yesterday. My wife is a Kelsey fan and a Chiefs fan now or something, and she's a Taylor Swift fan. And she said, she sent me this video about the numbers. I don't know if you've seen it yet, right? It's like, oh, did you know the song 22 came out in 2013, and it's 13 hours from Tokyo to Las Vegas, where she's playing her concert before the Super Bowl. Like, it's Taylor Swift's favorite number, all this stuff, right? And you can do all these number patterns. Well, the first one I watched, my wife sent, was funny. Then I got on TikTok last night. I did the whole scroll. And I swear to God, there was like 20 other ones that people have replicated, all of which have hundreds of thousands of views. But the point I'm trying to make is, when you are genuine and you're putting a little thought into your content, you're the movie directors coming out in you. That's what people are going to want to watch. And I love that. Now, let's talk real quick about, before we wrap up, is, you've won a ton of awards, and I'm super proud to call you my friend, because I just love seeing success. Tell us a little bit about some of these awards and what that means, and how you use those to continue to build business.
Yeah. So before you transition, I was saying, I call it, so I was following the other, I guess you could say, movie stars, or I called it the Kardashian effect. Then I changed it to the Nanda effect, because the Kardashian effect was, what I realized was, when I was creating these videos, it's about keeping it genuine and just be who you are, because I don't need to sell the product. I am the product of doing something. Just keep doing what you're doing, and it in return creates whatever the business or life, friendships, relationships. Because I'm not, it's not just a business for me. It's more of a motivation for me that I can create. And I always said, if I can show the world what I can do off camera, on camera, but if it makes them laugh, that's all matters. So, we see a lot of news, we see a lot of videos. We're like, okay, we see the, overly, like politics, and I don't want to be part of that. I want to just take the mind off of people, just to be like, have a few moments of a laugh. So,
absolutely.
So that kind of transitions, like I said, I wasn't expecting, I'm not expecting, but the awards come because
Mhm.
the results are being, we show the results, and those are good. Those make me happy for sure. But I was somebody was saying, what is success? I don't think there's an end to success. It's a pattern. It's a habit. And
Absolutely.
like you said, this year I did the biggest commercial one. It took me a few years, and it took me more years to even get there.
Mhm.
So when I completed it, it made me happy, but it
Mhm.
didn't make complete. So I was like, yeah, I'm happy, but I'm not complete. So that means I need to keep going. So
That's awesome.
now I'm on a roll that, okay, I need to keep doing this because this is what makes me more happy. So it's just I gotta create the habit. And
Absolutely.
you have to have passion,
Yeah.
which I truly have on this, in this subject matter. Real estate, because the thing is, real estate has so many avenues. Every
Hmm.
minute I talk to somebody, I've I learned something new that it could be done differently, or there could be other things part of that solution and the market itself.
I hear your passion through this conversation. It says we could keep going on because I feel the same way about marketing as you do about real estate,
Yeah.
right? Um, but and you mentioned something. I know we say we're going to wrap up, but I have to bring this one up because you mentioned it, and it's politics, right? There's
Hmm.
there's no escaping it, unfortunately, with real estate and mortgage, even marketing. Like I don't know if you've like all the regulations that
Yeah.
marketing has to be like CCPA and TPCA, and the most recent one is the closing the lead gen loophole, which
Hmm.
has really brought a lot of kind of heat on these lead generation companies like
Hmm.
Zillow, LendingTree, all these other
Yeah.
people. But and then one we didn't even talk about is National Association of Realtors are fighting
It's a
with
whole different topic.
in the Department of Justice, right? So like when the DOJ is involved, there's some pretty serious ramifications that come out of it,
Yeah.
whether some positive, whether some negative. But going back to politics, it's an election year, right?
Hmm.
And historically, we've seen a lot of ups and downs due to an election year from a marketing perspective, Nanda. Like we see the loopholes open up as far as spam texts and spam
Oh yeah.
robocalls and just emails, all of these things. But the one piece of the politics side of it, and I think through storytelling, is how are you planning on, or do you even bother combating the narrative that exists with media on our industries,
Hmm.
right? The
Yeah.
negative
So
that comes out. What do you do?
to go into that topic, it's funny because all the robocalls come, or not the robocalls. I got a text from the county saying, "Please run for a position. We don't have anybody running."
Nice.
And I was
Do it.
like, I wish I would, but I don't want to get into politics. It's not.
Yeah,
I don't want to take sides. I just want to, help people. So I can do that through real estate, and I'm happy with it. So,
absolutely.
you know, I don't need power. Whatever. I don't need the power to do that. I just want to be here to help people, guide them, buy, sell, invest or whatever. Um, anyways, but to your question, yes, there's a lot of changes happening, a lot of politics. And there's all these attacks or whatever on every type of system, right? Every type of
Mhm.
the system is going to be attacked for some reason. But I
True.
think if we do what's right, if we keep going, do the right thing, you know your right might be wrong for me, my right be wrong for you, but you do what you think, what you or I believe,
Mhm.
and follow the process. When you don't, all, through years of experience through my restaurant business and real estate and any other thing, the conclusion I came to is you got to have structure.
Absolutely.
Like a house built in real estate, you got to have structure, foundation, then the layers, then the roof. Similar to that, everything you do in your business, we have to follow that same process, and things will change, right? you know
Mhm.
Politics can change some of the aspects of it, politics might not
Absolutely.
change some of the aspects of it. The reality is, are you doing the best? Are you
Yeah.
doing the right thing and following the process? And if we continue to keep that structure going, I don't
Mhm.
think, if even if it's tough, or it might be tough, or it might be really valuable to your business. So that's what I do.
Well, I think you, and earlier in our conversation when you said you're able to pivot and have that backup plan and restructure your model, that is no different than the external forces coming in, whether it's politics or other things that are out of your control, right? Natural
People need
disasters,
it.
all that
People
stuff.
need a house. End of the day, they need to live somewhere. They're going to
Absolutely.
buy a house. The goal is to be there when they're ready to buy a house, whoever it might be. And maybe you want to move to Charleston tomorrow after
Yeah.
our conversation. You never know. Things
I
like
want to
that.
move to Charleston. I'm not going to lie. I really
Yeah,
like to be there because that's where I proposed to my wife.
yeah.
We got a lot of history there,
You got
but
memories here, so
yeah, a lot of memories of you. And again, thank you so much, Nanda,
yeah.
for
Thank you.
joining our podcast. Now, for our audience, Nanda is all over social media. We will include his links on the description here on Spotify and here on YouTube podcast. His website, in the meantime, if you wanted to check that out, it will be on the screen, is charlestonhomemarket.com. It's, let's see, right there. So we're going to be adding it right there. And then, again, Nanda, really wishing you much success for 2024. And for our
Thank you.
audience, realtors, builders, mortgage brokers, mortgage loan officers, any industry partner you're interested in joining the podcast as a guest for the future, as a future guest, we'll include the link on the bottom. And then, as always, we end our show, Nanda, with this famous tagline. We're going to get it up and start marketing it as well. And it's not the agent that wears many hats, but it's actually stay curious and keep marketing. So again, thank you, and
Thank you.
we look forward to having you again on soon.